Have you ever been in a dark room, heard a sudden creak, and felt your heart pound like it's trying to escape your chest? Or maybe you're watching a horror movie, and out of nowhere you let out a scream that surprises even you. It's that primal rush, the kind that makes your palms sweat and your muscles tense. But why? Why does fear grip us so intensely, and why do we scream when it hits? Today, we're diving deep into the science, history, and mystery of fear and screaming. Buckle up, because this isn't just about jump scares. It's about how these reactions shaped who we are as humans. Let's journey back millions of years to our earliest ancestors on the African savannas. Picture this: Homo sapiens predecessors, not the top of the food chain yet, but scrappy survivors in a world full of saber-toothed tigers, venomous snakes, and rival tribes. Fear wasn't a flaw back then, it was a superpower. Evolutionary biologists explain that fear evolved as a survival mechanism hardwired into our brains to detect threats and trigger quick responses. For instance, the fear of heights or falling likely stems from the dangers our tree-dwelling primate ancestors faced, where a single slip could mean death. Similarly, the innate terror of loud noises or looming shadows helped early humans avoid ambushes or collapsing caves. Researchers hypothesized that this dates back to a time when we were prey, not predators, and those who reacted fastest to danger passed on their genes. Even today, studies show that basic fears like these are universal across cultures, suggesting they're genetically transmitted but activated by environmental cues. Think about it. Without fear, our species might not have made it out of the Stone Age. It was the ultimate alarm system, pushing us to band together in groups for protection, build tools, and eventually dominate the planet. As humans evolved, so did our ways of grappling with fear. Fast forward to ancient civilizations, where fear wasn't just a gut reaction, it became woven into myths, rituals, and philosophies. In ancient Mesopotamia, around 2000 BCE, epic tales like the Gilgamesh story portrayed fear of death as a driving force for heroic quests, with gods and monsters symbolizing the unknown terrors of the wild. The Greeks took it further. Aristotle, in his Poetics from the 4th century BCE, described fear as a key element in tragedy, using it in theater to evoke catharsis, a purging of emotions that helped audiences confront their own anxieties. Meanwhile, in ancient China, Confucian texts from around 500 BCE advised controlling fear through moral discipline and societal harmony, viewing unchecked terror as a disruptor of order. By the Middle Ages in Europe, fear was weaponized. The church used vivid depictions of hell and damnation in art and sermons to instill obedience, while witch hunts in the 15th, 17th centuries exploited collective fears of the supernatural, leading to thousands of executions. But humans also innovated against it. Think of the Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke in the 17th century, who argued that fear stems from ignorance and could be overcome through reason and education. Even earlier, indigenous cultures around the world developed rites of passage, like vision quests among Native American tribes, where young people faced fears and isolation to build resilience. These historical attempts show a pattern. Fear drove innovation, from inventing fire to ward off nocturnal predators to building fortified cities against invaders. Yet twists abounded, like how the Black Death in the 14th century amplified fears of contagion, while sparking medical advancements, but also scapegoating and social division. It's a reminder that throughout history, we've toggled between fearing the unknown and harnessing that fear to propel progress. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what modern science tells us about why fear hits us like a freight train, and why screaming is part of that wild ride. At the core is the amygdala, that almond-shaped cluster in your brain's temporal lobe, acting as your personal threat detector. When you perceive danger, say a shadowy figure in an alley, the amygdala fires up, bypassing rational thought and activating the sympathetic nervous system. This triggers the famous fight or flight response. Adrenaline surges, your heart rate skyrockets to pump more oxygen to muscles, pupils dilate for better vision, and blood flow shifts away from digestion to your limbs for a quick getaway. But it's not just physical. Neurotransmitters like norepinephrine amp up alertness, while cortisol sustains the stress response. Neuroscientists have mapped this out using brain imaging, showing how fear circuits connect the amygdala to the hypothalamus and brainstem, creating a cascade that can make you freeze, flee, or fight in milliseconds. And screaming? That's no accident. Research reveals that screams have a unique acoustic property called roughness, rapid fluctuations in volume that hijack the brain's auditory cortex, instantly alerting us and others to danger. Psychologists explain it serves dual purposes. It warns your tribe and sharpens your own focus by pumping more adrenaline. Studies show screams activate the amygdala more intensely than other sounds, making them impossible to ignore. Think of how a baby's cry or a horror movie shriek grabs you. But fear isn't one size fits all. There's acute fear versus chronic anxiety, where the prefrontal cortex fails to dial down the amygdala, leading to disorders affecting hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Anthropology adds layers too. Fear responses vary by culture, but the biology is universal, rooted in our shared evolutionary past. Even more interesting, experiments show that facing fears in controlled ways like exposure therapy can rewire these circuits, proving our brains are adaptable. Fast forward to today, and fear looks wildly different in our hyper-connected world. Globalization and technology have amplified it in ways our ancestors couldn't imagine. Social media feeds us endless streams of alarming news, pandemics, climate disasters, cyber threats, creating a culture where anxiety feels constant. Surveys show that modern fears are increasingly abstract: corrupt governments, economic collapse, identity theft, and loss of privacy. Yet fear still binds us culturally. Horror films gross billions because they tap into that thrill, releasing dopamine alongside adrenaline for a safe fear high. On the human side, fear shapes identity. Phobias can isolate people, while collective fears during global crises can foster both division and unity. In diverse societies, fear influences politics, social behavior, and even self-worth through comparison culture. But it's not all negative. Fear motivates positive change, from environmental activism to technological innovation driven by the need for security. Across cultures, expressions differ. Some societies suppress fear, others embrace it through mindfulness, but the underlying mechanism remains the same. Even now, we're still those ancient survivors, just surrounded by screens instead of savannas. Looking ahead, what might the future hold for fear and our screams? Advances in neuroscience may lead to personalized fear management, virtual reality therapies, neurofeedback, or targeted treatments that retrain the brain's response to threats. On a darker path, escalating global crises could turn fear into a widespread social force, fueling conflict, mass movements, or manipulation through technology like AI-generated misinformation. At the same time, emerging technologies might redefine fear itself. Neural implants that calm panic instantly, AI systems that predict anxiety before it peaks, or simulations that prepare humanity for disasters before they happen. Space exploration adds new dimensions. Isolation, the unknown, and entirely new environments could awaken fears we've never faced before. The challenge will be balance, using fear as preparation and foresight, without letting it become a tool of control. But maybe the real question isn't why we fear and scream. Maybe it's what fear actually means. Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. Some saw fear as essential for moral growth, something art and experience could help us process. Others viewed it as the price of freedom, born from our awareness of choice and mortality. Eastern philosophies often describe fear as an illusion, created by attachment, something to be observed rather than obeyed. Modern thinkers argue we live in a culture of fear amplified by media, and that reclaiming reason is the only antidote. Even nature itself, towering mountains, violent storms, can inspire fear that transforms into awe, reminding us of our ability to transcend it through understanding. Perhaps fear isn't meant to be destroyed, but understood. Without it, courage would have no meaning, and life would lose much of its depth. So there you have it. Fear and screaming aren't just relics of our past. They're living echoes of our evolution, woven into our biology, culture, and future. Understanding fear doesn't make it disappear, but it gives us power over it. What scares you the most, and why do you think that is? Share it in the comments. If this video got your heart racing in a good way, like and subscribe for more deep dives into the human mind, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Stay curious, stay brave. See you next time.